Hello everyone, and welcome back to our WGEA Legislation Mini Series. My name is Louise Rogers. I'm a Global DEI Advisor in the Work 180 team, and I'm so glad you've dialed in to our session today. In our first video, we touched on a little bit more in terms of what this series will offer you, and we also spoke about the landmark changes to the WGEA legislation. Now, that included some of the key details behind this powerful opportunity for change. And a question naturally follows on from this. Where on earth do we begin? Now, the prospect of setting 3-year-long targets across complex areas such as workforce composition, pay equity, and flexible work can really feel quite daunting. How do we ensure that our targets are not only compliant, but can help strive authentic and meaningful change in our organisation? So let's start unpacking that. We're moving on from the why and moving to the how, focusing on the critical first step of any successful journey, understanding your starting point and understanding your current position. Now, today, we'll explore some of those practical initial activities you can undertake to assess your organisation's DEI maturity. Now, this foundational work is non-negotiable. It's what transforms target setting from a guessing game to an informed, authentic, and sustainable strategy and change. Now, the power of a current state assessment. Let's talk about it. A thorough current state assessment does more than just give us a baseline. It uncovers the nuances, the hidden barriers, and the potential hotspots within your organisation. And it allows you to diagnose the root causes of inequality rather than just treating the symptoms. Without this deep understanding, you risk target setting that are misaligned with your biggest organisational challenges. Now, for example, you may want to improve women's representation in leadership, and you might want to create a target that aligns with that. But if our core issue actually lies with a high attrition rate for mid-career women, which could be due to a lack of flexible work options, rigid culture, or a lack of career development opportunities, a leadership target alone isn't enough to solve the problem. This is why a multifaceted approach to assessing your current state really is optimal. Now, by simply looking at your overall representation numbers, it's not quite enough. We need you to go deeper to understand the employee life cycle and the systemic factors at play. And in this session, we're going to focus on 3 powerful methods you can take to start digging into your current state. Firstly, examining strategy and policy. So understanding strategy, policy, and frameworks alongside organizational values and behaviors. Number 2 is leveraging Work 180's comprehensive DEI benchmarking assessment, using Work 180's holistic tool to help you diagnose systemic issues and understand the why behind your data. And number 3, analyzing your recruitment funnel, a practical way to use data you likely already have to identify exactly where you might be losing talent. So let's dive into the first one. Deep dive 1, let's talk organizational strategy, policy, and frameworks. Now, it's important to examine your organization's DNA, the strategies, policies, and frameworks that dictate how things are meant to work. And this isn't just a paper-pushing exercise or an audit, it's a better understanding of your organizational blueprint and DNA. So, does our current broader organizational strategy explicitly name diverse and inclusive workforce as a critical enabler of its success? Are your gender equality objectives clearly linked to defined outcomes like innovation, market growth, or talent retention? And from there, we'll drill down into the frameworks that bring your strategy to life. And these are the scaffolding that shapes employee experience and also guides our ways of working. So let's talk accountability frameworks. How are people, particularly leaders, held accountable for fostering an inclusive environment? Is inclusive leadership a core competency in your performance management framework? Are there clear KPIs tied to gender equality outcomes for your executive team? Let's also talk through values and behavioral frameworks. These are at the heart of the culture. For example, if one of your company values is respect or collaboration, what are the specific values and behaviors that bring that to life? A review of these frameworks can uncover how we can best approach your target setting and progressing inclusion more broadly in a way that makes sense to your world. This deep exploration helps you connect the dots between current intention and impact. For example, one endorsed employer we recently worked with realized that there was a disconnect between strategy and policy. And with organizational values being underutilized and not truly driving the behaviors that the organization wanted and needed to see in action to bring about better business and inclusion outcomes. So, doing an audit like this might also show opportunities for your values and performance frameworks to approach inclusion in new ways. And by understanding your current state, you can set WGEA targets that don't just aim to fix a data point, but aim to fundamentally improve your organization's ways of working for a more equitable future. Now, let's take a step into deep dive number 2, analyzing your recruitment funnel. One of the most accessible sources of data that might already be at your fingertips is the recruitment funnel. And we call the process of analyzing the data through the recruitment process that recruitment funnel analysis. And it involves assessing the flow of candidates through every stage of your hiring process, from application all the way through to final interview and selection. Now, many organizations I speak with feel like they don't have enough data to start, but you may be surprised to learn what you already collect and how this can be useful to you. Now, your applicant tracking system or your ATS or even existing HR dashboards can be a real goldmine. The goal is to identify hotspots, specific points in the funnel where representation of women or men disproportionately drops off. Now, so how do we do that? First, map out your key recruitment stages. This typically could include total applications received, candidates who pass the initial screening, the long list, the shortlist for interviews, candidates who complete all interview rounds, offers made, and of course, offers accepted. Next, for each stage, you need to pull the numbers and calculate the percentage of women at each stage. What you're looking for are significant cliff edges. Now, for example, you might find that your applicant pool for a management role is 50% women, which is fantastic. But when we get to that final interview stage, that number has dropped to 15%. And that's a hotspot. So this single piece of data is incredibly powerful. It tells you that your problem isn't necessarily your employer brand or your ability to attract female talent. The issue lies somewhere within your screening and your selection process. It prompts critical questions. Are the selection criteria on the job description unintentionally biased? Is there a lack of gender diversity in your interview panels? Are you using inconsistent assessment methods? That hotspot is your starting point for deeper investigation. And analyzing your funnel provides the what, which then allows you to start asking the why. So let's take a step into deep dive number 3, leveraging a comprehensive DEI benchmarking assessment. While the recruitment funnel is an excellent starting point for identifying what's happening, it often can't tell you the full story of the why. And to truly understand the systemic drivers of inequality, we need to take a step back and take a more holistic view of your entire organization. And this is where a comprehensive benchmarking tool, such as the Work 180 DEI benchmarking assessment, can become invaluable. And this kind of tool is designed to provide a 360-degree view of your organization's DEI maturity. It is informed by global best practices, including frameworks from bodies like the UN, and it moves beyond simple workforce metrics. A robust benchmarking assessment evaluates your organization against hundreds of specific criteria, typically organized across 10 key standards of gender equality. And these standards include representative leadership, pay equity, flexible work, shared caring responsibility, employee voice and employee resource groups, career development, inclusive and anti-discriminatory culture, employee safety and support services, inclusive hiring practices, and strategic commitment initiatives. This comprehensive assessment allows you to uncover issues that might not be visible in your current data capture. Let's go back to our earlier example. So, The recruitment funnel showed us women were dropping out of the recruitment process for management roles. A benchmarking assessment would dig deeper. It could potentially uncover, for example, if your organization has a formal policy and training to promote inclusive hiring, if you actively track promotion, talent, and succession rates by gender, and trends that are emerging within this can correspond also with employee survey engagement data and regarding perceptions of career development opportunities for women. It can also relate to current uptake and offering of flexible work policies. And the assessment might reveal that while you attract female talent, your internal promotion pathways may be unclear. There could also be a perception that key projects are disproportionately given to male employees. It might uncover that your flexible work policy is inconsistently applied by managers, making it difficult for women with caring responsibilities to see a long-term future at the company. And the tool helps you connect the dots between the data point, such as the hotspot, and the underlying systemic cause, which gives you a much clearer evidence-based path forward for setting your WGEA targets. So what next? To recap, before you even begin to draft your WGEA targets, you have 3 powerful initial activities at your disposal. Number 1, examining strategy and frameworks to take the pulse of your organizational strategy, policy, and frameworks that guide your ways of working. Analyze your recruitment funnel. It's an initial data point that is often one of the most accessible data areas to assess. And number 3, using your DEI benchmarking assessment to understand the why more deeply and identify cross-organizational trends and enablers. Now, taking these steps will provide you with the opportunity to start building a holistic and data-driven foundation. You'll be able to move forward and continue to explore further data points that build out your understanding of what will enable your organization to succeed. Now that you have a clearer picture of where to start, let's start thinking about some of those other critical data points you'll need to inform your approach. In our next video, we'll explore how we capture, understand, and leverage employee voice, including through experience surveys, the capture of demographic data, and more, to allow us to set the organization up for success. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in our next session.